Hello everyone, it's Spath here again. Welcome to another model review video, and this time we've got the granddaddy of them all, the EFE RT. Now, full disclosure, I've actually got an RTL, the difference being the radiator. The radiator is a separate fitting on the model, it's just plastic and it's glued on. So the RT would have an AEC radiator with an AEC badge in the middle, a triangular badge middle of the top, and then a dividing bar down the centre there. And this one's got a Leyland radiator. I'll explain about that in a moment. But otherwise than that, the casting is exactly the same. So the RT doesn't really need any introduction. It was the famous London bus, first produced in 1939. The Second World War halted production for a bit, but it resumed in 1945 and went on to 1954. The majority of them were AECs. There were 4,825 AECs. The general consensus is that RT, the type code, stands for Regent type, because they were an AEC Regent chassis, just built to London specification. Because London Transport had such a big fleet, they needed to dual source the chassis, so they also got Leyland to build some similar ones on a version of their Leyland Titan, and they were known as the RTLs. There were 1,631 of them, 450 bodied by Metro Camel and 1,181 by Park Royal. This is a model of a Park Royal bodied bus, as we'll come to in a bit. The RTLs were delivered between 1948 and 1954. Despite the fact that there were 1,600 or so of them, they were classed as non-standard because there were so many of the AEC version. There were 3 times more of the AECs. So they began to be withdrawn early in 1958, and they were all withdrawn by 1968. By contrast, the AEC version, the RT, lasted in service until April 1979. Not relevant to what we're doing really, there are also 500 more Leyland buses in the RT series, the RTWs. Basically the RTs and the RTLs were 7'6" wide. During the 50s the regulations were eased to allow 8 foot wide vehicles, so the RTWs were built to 8 foot wide, but again not relevant to what we're doing. Corgi, original omnibus company, did do a model of the RTW, and I will review one in due course when I get one. But we're doing the EFE version, the RT and the RTL. So the EFE model, there were almost as many of these released as there were real buses, to be honest. There's been absolutely loads. I think there's over 200 releases all in. It was the first casting that EFE released, was the RT, first done in August 1989, when EFE burst onto the scene. It was a game changer, as I said before. Until then we were painting dinky toys and things like that, so to have a scale model like this was a real game changer. And it's still past muster nowadays. It's every bit as good as a lot of the modern releases, even though the casting itself is now 36 years old as I'm doing this. But between August 1989 and January of 2019, as I said, there were over 200. The RT, the AEC version, they did 4 of the pre-war ones with this kind of roof dome, and a further 5 with a roof box, so the a route number box that was mounted on the roof in the middle, just above the middle of the window there. So there were 9 of the pre-war version done like that. There were no fewer than 116 of the post-war version of the AEC RT with the roof like this on the original casting. They then retooled the casting and did another 22 of them with this style of roof. And then on top of that they did 11 with the roof box. That was all on the original casting. They didn't issue any of the AEC version with a roof box with the retooled casting. On top of that they released an open top version as well, which I'll probably review separately because it is a little bit different, but there were 11 versions of those. The RTL that we've got, there were 31 done of the original casting without a roof box, and 9 of the retooled casting without a roof box, and there were 4 done again with the original casting with a roof box, so 44 all in. So if you add it all together, there were 202 roofed versions and a further 11 without a roof, so 213. And then to add to that, EFE Road, the Bachmann subsidiary, kind of bought out the original EFE when EFE went bankrupt. They've released 6 of the Craven's version more recently, but that is a completely different casting. It's they look substantially different to this one. But yeah, quite a lot, over 200 releases, so a lot to go at, quite a lot to find on the second-hand market as well if you're looking for one. So the one we've got is catalogue number 11110, released in March of 1996, and it's a model of Stevensons of Spath, fleet number 29. registration KGU 216. The real bus was new to London Transport. So I'll quickly look at the history of Stevensons, we'll look at the history of the real bus, and then we'll have a look around it and we'll talk about price. So Stevensons were founded in 1926, as in Spath, which is a small village just north of Uttoxeter, about half a mile north of Uttoxeter. By the 70s they were running 40 buses and coaches. They opened the garage in Rugeley in the early 80s. In 1983, 50% of the shares were sold to Julian Peddle, who at the time was described as a bus industry entrepreneur. Went on to do a lot in the bus industry, still active in the bus industry now as I'm doing this in 2025. And yeah, I'd love to read his autobiography if he ever writes it. He's one of those characters, he's done an awful lot, but he doesn't really shout about it. So, you know, he's achieved a lot in the bus industry, but he's not as well known as some other people because he doesn't stand on the rooftop shouting. In 1985, Stevensons raised some eyebrows and got really into the consciousness of those in the bus industry because they merged with East Staffordshire District Council's bus operation. Now, it was pretty much unheard of for an independent and a municipal to merge, even after deregulation, let alone before deregulation in 1985. But they finished up with 51% of the shares owned by Julian Peddle and 49% by the council. Not that it's really relevant to what we're doing, but later on they took shareholdings in Midland Fox and Rhondda buses as well, and they sold out to British Bus in June 1994, by which time you could see the buses as far apart as Wolverhampton and Manchester. And then British Bus became part of Arriva. Arriva have since pulled out of a lot of the area they served, and it's served by other people, but again it's not relevant to what we're doing today. So KGU 216 was new as London Transport RTL 270 in June 1949. I said earlier on, it had a Park Royal body. It worked from Tottenham, Sutton, Walworth and Seven Kings garages until it was stored in November of 1958. And it was stored for a period of time. It was bought by the dealers Bird in Stratford-upon-Avon and then sold to Stevensons in November of 1959. As we can see, they gave it fleet number 29 as modelled. In October 1965 it was fitted with platform doors to keep the passengers and the conductor a bit warmer. It was withdrawn in May 1976, so it had quite a good innings with Stevensons, 16 and a bit years. They sold it in 1977 to a private buyer in Spath who used it as a greenhouse, I kid you not, and it was still in use as a greenhouse in 1994. By 1997 it had been moved to a scrapyard, but the body had disintegrated. It just years stood outside, hadn't done it any good at all, and it couldn't be saved. But the chassis was sold for spare parts in October of 1997, so quite possibly some parts off the chassis are still in use on a preserved RT nowadays. So let's do the all-important look around. This casting is 36 years old as I'm doing this. So I'm doing it in July of 2025, and it was originally released in August of 1989 was the casting. So it's 36 years old, but it passes muster. It looks every bit as good as some of the modern castings. As you can see, the general impression of the thing, first of all, is it looks like an RT. It looks exactly like it should do. So the shape of the front dome is good. The windows are good as well. There's no flush glazing on these. I mean, the RTs weren't particularly flush glazed anyway in real life. But the window units on both decks are inserts. There's one-piece inserts, a bit like this plastic tray. They just kind of push in. But they still look pretty decent. As I said, the RTs weren't exactly flush glazed in reality, so it looks pretty reasonable. So it all looks good up there. The London version of this have got the blind cast in, as far as I remember, but this one hasn't. They've done a flatter front panel, so you haven't got the casting of the surround of the blind. And then the destination blind is printed on. Obviously, it would have had the three-part London Transport blind originally, but Stevenson's modified it, panelled it over, so it just had this little bit, and it's shown en route to Uttoxeter via Tutbury. The central band on these buses is a separate fitting. They come apart, and you obviously drill the rivets out there, take it apart. Top and bottom deck are two different bits, but the central band is a separate fitting of the sort of plastic. It's like a plastic layer that goes in between the two metal bits, the upper and lower deck, and it makes it really easy to repaint. You take it apart and you can get, if you want a band in there, obviously you just paint the plastic bit separately and put it back in, so you get a lovely straight edge every time. So it does recess in slightly, a bit more maybe than it should do in reality, because it is a separate fitting, but it doesn't look too bad, particularly in this livery when it's painted black. Some panel lines there. The windscreen looks pretty good. There is the dividing bar across it. In reality, the top part would open, and you can just about see the dividing bar there if I hold it to the light, but it's just moulded in and it's not very distinct. There is, I believe, as well, you can just about see a bit of a windscreen wiper moulded on as well, but again, it's not very clear. You've got to make allowances for the fact this is 36 years old, as I say, the casting and the moulding of the windscreen. Side light there looks very good. Little ventilation grille there, the fleet number printed on. The offside headlight is recessed into the casting, and that looks really nice. The wing looks pretty good. The radiator is nice as well. It's plastic. You can't really see it because it's painted black, but there is some lovely moulded detail in there. And you've got the filler cap on the top there to put the water in. Registration plate printed across the bottom. Obviously, the earlier releases of this casting didn't have a registration plate, unless they were deluxe versions, because the standard releases didn't have registrations on EFEs on the deluxe versions. But by the time this was done in 1996, they all had registration plates. So hence this has got one. Near side headlight and fog light, separate plastic fittings, but they look pretty decent, as does the wing. Again, a separate plastic fitting. And you've got the side light, I believe that's supposed to be there, cast on there at the back. Could do to be picked out in silver, but apart from that, pretty decent. Again, you've got the dividing bar across the window there, moulded in, so it doesn't really stand out unless you hold it to the light. The bonnet area looks pretty good. The kind of moulding there to give a bit of a step for the conductor to climb up and wind the blind, I think was under the canopy. But yeah, that all looks pretty good. You've got the step there to climb up onto it. Very good. The windows look nice. Again, the opening part of them is just moulded in. It's not very clear. You've kind of got to wiggle it to the light to see it, but it looks pretty reasonable anyway. It's not really a problem. As you can see, the London style blinds are cast into the casting there. You can see the surround to it. Stevensons didn't use it, so it's just painted over in body colour. But again, it looks pretty good. It does give the impression of a bus that's kind of just had it painted over or panelled over or whatever. Looks very nice. Paint's a little bit worn on this one. Obviously, it's a second-hand one that I've bought. The wheels look reasonable, if a bit plasticky. They could do with a coat of paint just to tone them down a little bit. They do look, I mean, they are plastic, obviously, but they look plastic as well. And it would help just to paint over them, or maybe a bit of satin varnish just to tone it down. And the back wheel has got a wheel disc on all the releases, which, you know, whether the rail busted or not by this stage, I don't know. Little lifeguard rail there, separate plastic moulding as well, but that's pretty decent. Maybe a little bit chunky, but you know what, it captures the look. It's nice. You've got the legal letter in there, unladen weight there, obviously the fleet name. And you've got a filler cap there cast in, again looking pretty good. Round to the back, again you've got London style blinds cast in, but they look decent enough. The emergency exit looks nice. The roof dome is the correct shape. Back window is pretty good. The handrail's just cast on. It's not a separate fitting, it's part of the main casting. But again, it is 36 years old. Got to make some allowances. The lights there is a bit of relief to them. And the registration plate is sunk in as it should be, which is very nice to see. There's a bit of scuffing and things on there. I'll try and clean that off. It's not a problem. And the offside pretty much the same as the near side. Some nice detail in some lovely bits of panelling there. Look, you can see there and there. The garage code plates from the London days cast in there as well. The step to enable the driver to get up into the cab. Only thing missing really is no little handle on the cab door, which you'd use to slide it open, but apart from that, I mean, it's only a minor thing, and if I hadn't pointed it out, you probably wouldn't have noticed it. In fact, I hadn't noticed it, I've just noticed it now as I'm doing the review. The roof looks pretty nice, panel lines as they should be, and not much else to say, because there wouldn't be much else on a roof of an RT. And some basic chassis detailing underneath there. You've got a bit of sort of the main frames across there. The axle, bit of the gearbox, I'm assuming that is, the drive, fuel tank, various bits and pieces, but yeah, pretty nice. And the interior, setting the standard for EFEs to come. Very nice, some detail in the seats. You can see there's some moulding, they're not just flat plastic. There is some detail moulded into them. As always for an EFE, it will benefit from taking it apart and just painting them just to bring out the detail, but they look very, very nice indeed. And that goes round to the platform area there. You can see there's the tread of the floor moulded in. The staircase looks a bit iffy because it's just done in body colour, whereas obviously it should be a different colour. But again, if you took it apart to paint it, you could paint all that and it would just improve the appearance. Not too bad when you view it normally because you can't really see it from a normal viewing angle. But all in all, a very nice model. You wouldn't really know it was 36 years old, would you, the casting? As I say, it does pass muster if you put it next to a modern bus. As I'll demonstrate, there you go. There's a Corgi Volvo B9 Right Gemini 2, which I've done a review of separately. Check that out on my channel. But again, it just, detail-wise, it doesn't show the RT up by any means, does it? It looks pretty reasonable next to it. I mean, yes, the RT looks a lot smaller, because it is. If you put a real RT or RTL next to a Volvo B9 in real life, the RT would look a lot smaller. But yeah, it passes muster. It's still a very nice model, almost 40 years after it was first released. So how much one of these beauties cost you if you want to add one to your collection? Well, there's the good news, not a lot. As you may have noticed when I did the review of the chassis, this one cost me £5 from a stall at the Stagecoach Grimsby Garage Open Day. And that's about the kind of going rate. If you find them on a stall at a toy and train fair, model railway exhibition, bus rally, etc, etc, a lot of them are about a £5. I've had a look on eBay for the purposes of this video. I'm doing it in the middle of July 2025. The cheapest closed top one I could find was £3.99 plus £3.99 postage and packing, so £7.98 all in. And that was one of the green line versions, one of the very first releases. They flooded the market. They did absolutely thousands of them when they first came out. They just issued loads and loads, far more than people wanted to buy, and they became very, very common, and the prices went down, and they've stayed very, very common of those first releases. The cheapest one of all I could find was £6.80 all in, £1.80 plus £5 postage, and that was one of the open toppers. They did an EFE inaugural model in Eastbourne livery of the open top one, and they tend to go very, very cheaply. So yeah, £6.80 all in for that, delivered to your door from eBay. Most expensive, £249.99, and that was the Queen's Golden Jubilee gold liveried one. Yeah, personally I wouldn't be paying that much for a 176 RT, although it is a nice model. It's not quite 250 quid's worth, but each to their own. If you want to pay that for one, that is up to you. The Stevensons RTL model that I've actually got, the cheapest one I could find on eBay was £10.30, £6.80 plus £3.50 postage and packing, and the most expensive was £22.9, £18.39 plus £3.70 postage and packing. I mean, I probably wouldn't be paying 22 quid for one when you can get one for a £5 from a stall, or you know, £10.30 delivered to you with postage. But there are some people on eBay who have some strange ideas about the price of things. For a bit of balance, I looked at the Liz Keefe website. They had the Stevensons one for £8.32. Cheapest RT they had was 99p. That was again the inaugural Eastbourne EFE Memorial open top release that was on eBay for £1.80, so 99p for that. The cheapest closed top they were selling was £6, and again that was one of the green line ones that were done in the very early days. And the most expensive one they had was £45, and that was a London Transport one with Austrian Airlines adverts on it. Some of the London ones are more collectible than others. So in all cases you'll be looking at about £4 postage and packing on there, so anywhere between £4.99 and 49 quid. But yeah, that's the beauty of these though. You can pick them up for about a £5 at stalls and things. Now, to give you an idea, at the same event I bought a Northcord Scania, which I'll review separately, obviously. But I paid 65 quid for that, which wasn't a bad price for it, to be fair. But you could get 13 of these for that price. So if you're looking to build up a fleet or to put some models in your display case, you're on a bit of a budget. This is the kind of model that will sort you out, basically. You can, as I say, get 13 of them for the price of one brand new Northcord. So they are worth getting, and as I've just shown you there with that B9 next to it, it still passes muster. They're every bit as good as the modern releases, really, detail-wise. There's nothing to complain about on it. It's a really nice model, and you can get them for as cheaply as a fiver, you know, so you can't really go wrong. So yeah, I would recommend it definitely. They've done many liveries, these buses, in real life. When London Transport finished them, they went all around the world. Lots of people in the UK bought them, and lots of people around the world bought them. So there's plenty of scope. And EFE have done a lot of the models of buses in, you know, after London service, including this one indeed, the Stevensons one. So yeah, there's plenty of scope for different operators and things, and it's well worth getting. It's a lovely model. I'm glad I finally added one to my collection. I've had quite a few of them over the years, don't get me wrong. I've painted various ones of them, etc., but I've not had one to keep. So I'm pleased that I have. It's a lovely model, and you wouldn't believe it was nearly 40 years old. Anyway, as always, thank you for watching. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.